Welcome to Voices of the Valley, a captivating podcast series that brings together some of the brightest minds in the agriculture industry. Straight from the field to your living room, we explore the challenges, innovation, and triumphs in modern-day farming and provide insight for consumers who are curious about where their food comes from. Welcome to this episode of Voices of the Valley. I'm your host, Cory Lunde. The next generation of ag leaders are playing an important role in shaping the future of farming. California is one of the most vital agricultural regions in the world, and these emerging voices are navigating a rapidly changing industry. With challenges like labor and water shortages, increased regulatory and marketplace demand, an enhanced focus on sustainability, and advancements in agtech, one thing is certain, farming is going to look a lot different in the coming decade. This week, I sit down with Abby Taylor Silva, Executive Vice President of the California Agricultural Leadership Foundation, and Bryan Nickerson, Commodity and Supply Chain Services Director for Western Growers. We'll be exploring the California Agricultural Leadership Program and discussing how this program is ensuring that our future leaders are equipped with the skills to navigate the ever-evolving landscape of agriculture. Let's tune in. Welcome to another edition of Voices of the Valley. I am today's host, Cory Lunde, Western Growers. I have my colleague, Bryan Nickerson, also with Western Growers. Say hi.
Good afternoon.
And we have an incredible guest with us today, someone that I've known a long time. She is an advocate for the industry, and she is currently with the California Agricultural Leadership Foundation, Abby Taylor Silva.
Hi, it's nice to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Today's conversation is going to be around leadership in the agriculture industry and what that means for the future of agriculture here in the state of California. And we know that the average age of farmers in the state has steadily risen over the years, and it's now near 60 years old. And we also know that fewer young people are going into agriculture. So we're at a point now where we need to continue cultivating and building up the next generation of leaders in the ag industry. And that's where the California Ag Leadership Foundation steps in. So, Abby, let's get to the bottom line. How do you define leadership, and why is leadership development important for the future of California agriculture?
I absolutely love this question. I love how we're just digging right in. And, I'm actually going to rely on Dr. Pat Latoury's definition to answer this question. So Dr. Latoury was a faculty member with our program for over 25 years, and he's really developed quite a bit of the curriculum for the program that we teach today. What he says is positive leadership is an art form, a teaching and serving process that envisions, influences, shapes, and enhances to the end that the leader and followers realize their goals for change within community. So to me, that's a very empowering answer to the question. I think a lot of times when we talk about leadership, we're thinking of someone who's a position holder, but that's not what leadership always is. A leadership is actually that individual who truly understands themselves as a leader, who then knows how to go into their community and positively lead change and movement toward a vision. And that's what this program's all about. This program's all about, too, knowing that leadership can be learned, which I think is very empowering for those of us in agriculture who come in and maybe feel like, gosh, do I have the skills? Do I have the skills to be part of this program, to do the things that I really want to do to achieve what I think needs to be done? We all have natural strengths, but it's effective life experiences and self-awareness that truly help us to grow our potential. And that's what this program does. It really helps people to hone in on what those are, both what are the strengths they bring in and where can they grow, because we all have places we can grow.
Bryan, kind of listening to Abby describe what leadership means to the Ag Leadership Program, you are an alumni. You went through the Ag Leadership Program. How did going through the program kind of shape your perception of leadership and what it meant to you as a person and what it means for agriculture as an industry?
Yeah. Great question, Cory. So I was chosen, had the ability to go through class 48, right? This is a 17-month program, and I always remember hearing about this program historically through my father, who was in class 13. And as we, look at that baby boomer generation, I really thought as a leader, as more of like an authoritative figure, somebody that made demands and really had high expectations on that individual. What I truly learned about myself and about different leaders through the ag program is that empathy and self-awareness is as important than anything else, right? You think about all the different leadership skills that an individual has, think of it as like a toolbox, right? And you want to be able to call upon that proper tool at the right time. We all know if you use the wrong tool in the wrong situation, you're not going to get the right outcome, right? So it's pulling out the right tool at the right time and understanding yourself inside and out and where your skill sets lies.
I like that, the focus on empathy and self-awareness in your own leadership journey. That's terrific. Abby, why is leadership development important for the future of California agriculture?
Right. So I think I've seen in some of your communications that the percentage of the population that grows our food is 1.5% of all people in the United States. And so we're further removed than we've ever been from the people who are growing our food. And so I think ag leadership helps people to learn how to use their tools and lead in various realms. And I think those realms can include their businesses. So we need people who they're going to need to run their businesses in such a way where they can feed the nation and the world, right? That's really actually very aligned to our vision, is feeding the world. The challenges that companies face today are more complex than ever. So we need people who can come in, who have the leadership to navigate those complexities, make hard decisions, cast vision, inspire their teams, and really effectively sustain their operations. I believe we also need strong agricultural leaders in our communities, right? So I live here in Salinas. If I look at the people who are serving on county boards, sponsor Little League, 4-H community leaders, sit on nonprofit boards, I mean, all of those are agriculturalists. Those are the people that are lifting the community. And I think the agriculturalists of today also must interact with organizations, legislators, regulators, special interest groups, and more who don't understand agriculture in California or agriculture at all. And so we need leaders who can step up and step into those hard conversations and tell their story effectively, find the opportunities for change, and make it happen. And that is what this program provides. I think it really provides people with the roadmap to learn how to do those things.
I think what Abby's really tying in here is someone's ability to be impactful and intentful, right? Everyone can have an idea about whatever impact that they want to lead, but that intent, right? The right intent with the right impact, as those two parallel each other, is truly what will get you to that leadership capability, right? And having that ability to have that self-awareness to know when to call upon that is truly as important.
Yeah, and Abby, your point about agriculture needing to engage with their communities. As you mentioned, fewer and fewer people are engaged in agriculture, and they simply don't understand the needs of the industry and how the industry relates to the community around it. So it's imperative that as part of any leadership exercise, the agriculturalist needs to consider having an impact on their community, and not just on their farm or in their farming community, but in the community at large.
Yeah, I would argue, there are boards that I've sat on that are not agricultural in focus. They're more community focused. And in some ways, those are just as impactful as the ag boards I've sat on, because you need to have ag voice in making major decisions around your community, right? And I think that's part of what comes from this program, is learning how to do that.
Yeah, and if it's not us telling the story, who is it, right? And is that the right story? Can never trust those sources. So you are your best advocate. You are the one to promote the best message, because you're the one that understands it, and you have the ability as a leader to bring others onto your farm, so to speak, and make sure that they understand the intricacies. Abby, a question I have for you. We spend a lot of time within ag leadership, telling our story and perfecting our story. Is there, maybe just a couple minutes that you can kind of give and dive into the details of your personal story?
Absolutely. Thank you. So I grew up in South Monterey County. So my father grew sugar beets, tomatoes, peppers, broccoli, and a lot changed for agriculture in the late 80s. My father grew for Spreckles sugar plant and Spreckles that is no longer. My father grew for Tri-Valley growers. That's no longer. And so we had to shift as a family because the sources where he was sending his product were no longer. And that meant for us, we moved. My dad went to work for a seed company, and I came off the farm, right? And so I think for me, that was a very big shift as a child. And I wasn't very engaged in agriculture or 4-H, FFA, or anything like that. It wasn't until I went to Davis, I became part of a community of people in agriculture, and I just realized, like, these are my people, right? This is my community. And I went to work for the California Strawberry Commission. I went to Ag Against Hunger after that, which was an amazing program that brought food to food banks throughout the West Coast, and all donated by agriculture on the Central Coast. And then I went to the Grower Shipper Association of Central California for over a decade, and I worked on water supply, water quality, food safety, pest management issues. And so the key thing for me in my engaging with Ag Leadership Foundation was I became a fellow in 2014. And 2014 was a very big year for Sigma. There were a lot of things happening that I was actually getting to a place where I wasn't quite sure how to move the needle for my members. And I was honestly feeling a little bit hopeless at times. I'm not sure how to engage. I'm not sure how to lead in the way that's most productive. And the program just absolutely changed my perspective. It really helped me see what my strengths were, but it also helped me see what some of my biggest weaknesses were. And I realized there were times where I was standing in my own way, and that I didn't want to do that anymore. And I really, through the cohort, through the group, your class, you process those hard truths about yourself and you learn from one another. And it's such an incredible process because you have this family of people that you work through your leadership phases together. You really work through your individual awareness of your leadership to how you're going to move forward and lead on behalf of many. And so when I had the opportunity to work for the foundation 4 years ago, I absolutely jumped at it because I think this program is one of the most important ways for California agriculture to thrive and sustain itself. And it's something that I'm so proud to be a part of.
And to follow up, you now have experience on both sides as a fellow going through the program and now as an executive helping to run and manage the program. How is your perspective on leadership change going from participant to now being on the other side?
What's been so, I would say, fun and interesting about being on the other side is it's amazing to watch each class develop. There are definitely similarities, but I've watched the program develop and I've watched the classes develop in different ways because we have a new generation now in the program. I'm Gen X. Now most of the fellows are millennials. And so the way that we deliver the program, while the core of the program, the foundation is the same, the way that it's being delivered is being modified to best meet the needs of today's ag leaders. And that's been really, really fun to see.
Yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit about the growth and evolution of the Ag Leadership Program. Can you take us back to the beginning? When was it founded? Why was it created? And how has the program evolved over the years to meet the changing needs of leadership in agriculture?
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea began in 1962, and it was created by the Council of California Growers, and they wanted to accomplish charitable and educational work on behalf of the industry, and so they put together this nonprofit organization. And then as the years went on, they had a number of very generous founding donors and really visionaries who brought together the idea for this program, and those included Dean Brown, who's a farmer, and J.G. Boswell, also of course a farmer, so J.G. Boswell II. And they created these partnerships with the 4 universities, so that's Davis, Fresno State, Cal Poly Pomona, and Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And from there, they inaugurated their first class of 30 farmers in November of 1970. And I think that, as we look at the why are we here, I actually really like to refer to some of the writings of our founders. And so if you read their writings, they talk about environmental restrictions, regulations expected to be increasing, becoming more challenging, recognition that those who are making decisions had less understanding of agriculture and the needs of production. They talk a little bit about the need to use more more advanced technology, right? This was almost 60 years ago, and kind of coming away from a more romanticized view of farming to the actual realities of farming today. And they recognized that to really influence and lead effectively in these realms, an investment in leadership development was necessary. It was incredibly visionary. And I mean, that's why, Bryan and I have really benefited from being a part of a program that saw that need over, half a century ago.
Well, I was going to say, it's funny, the more things change, the more they stay the same. It sounds like that could have been written today. So with over 50 years and more than 50 classes of history, how would you describe the impact of the program on California agriculture? In what ways has the program shaped successive generations of ag leaders?
Well, I'm really excited to hear Bryan's thoughts on this as well as an alum. So I'll go ahead and start, but I think that we see the impact being made by our alumni on agriculture every single day. And so, examples, we have alumni sitting on Sigma boards, right? One of the most important discussions around water, it will be in, I know, my generation and ours, right? And they're sitting on agencies, they're working on the plans, they're right in the middle of it. They're leading organizations like CAPCA and CACASA, right, who are working on pest management issues in a time when a lot is changing in that realm as well. And they're sitting on their county boards of supervisors. They're advocating in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. They're serving as secretaries and undersecretaries at CDFA and USDA. But, they're also leading the farm bureaus and their businesses, and they're weathering those complexities inherent to operating in California. We're leading at all realms here, and I think that's what's important. It's sometimes the leadership's out in front, but sometimes the leadership is getting in day after day and doing the hard work at your company to thrive. And we see our alumni doing that all over the place.
Very much so. An area of impact that I really see, especially here for domestic agriculture, not just California, but domiciled domestic operations here in the United States, is as we look at, additional international markets too, right? Expanding beyond just what we know here and now and today. And I know a handful of alumni that are just pushing the envelope when it comes to expanding international markets and looking at what our members' needs are here domestically, and how do we expand not only that production or supply or customer base beyond the domestic lines, but really understanding those challenges and how to communicate that challenge in a effective manner, right? Understanding that inside and out is what you have the ability to do within ag leadership. Whether you know it or not, you have the ability, and it's just that opportunity to open the box to a wealth of knowledge that you may or may not know that you have tapped into.
Yeah, so the impact goes beyond just your community and your state, but really globally as well.
Because that is the way that the world of agriculture is going, right? It's a global market and opportunity.
Well, and our vision is Leaders United to strengthen California agriculture and sustainably supply the world. And, I think vision statements are usually meant to be far off, but I would argue that our alumni are already doing this every day. And that's the incredible impact that this idea 60 years ago has made on California agriculture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Abby, one of the most consistent things that we can, expect is challenge, right? The only consistency that we have nowadays is challenge and change. One of the challenges actually that's facing California agriculture, as with many sectors of the economy, is attracting and retaining young talent. What is California agriculture doing, would you say, to bring in the best and the brightest of the next generation?
So I think I'm starting to see agriculture in California really begin to thread the needle on describing the opportunities for this next generation to apply their skill sets, whether it's in technology, transportation, finance, marketing, to agriculture. I think we're starting to have those discussions more effectively and in different realms these days, which I think is pretty exciting. There are so many opportunities to create a great career in agriculture. I would say even arguably more than in other industries because of how dynamic agriculture is. And I think Western Growers does a great job of supporting this through training programs, right? There's so much that you do. I've benefited directly from Karen Timmons's Arbinger training and through this center that we're sitting in today. And I think investing in ag leadership and investing in encouraging your employees to be a part of ag leadership is a really great opportunity and tool for employers in California. Statewide, they're supporting the next generation when they provide their employees with time to be a part of this program. And it's an investment in the future, it's building capacity, it's providing a life-changing opportunity that is only available to California agriculturalists. I mean, how that is incredibly special. And I would love to hear your thoughts, but I know for me, it was absolutely worth the investment. The things that I was able to do following my organization's investment in me and the investment by the foundation in my being in the program were leaps and bounds over what I was doing before.
Agreed. Yeah, looking at the next generation, you hear a lot of the times they're like, how do I give back? What does that even look like when I give back? Well, this is an opportunity that we call a win-win. Give back to the industry that helped you succeed in whatever realm that might be, right? And help yourself develop and become the best that you can be. We all are literally saving Private Ryan on a day-to-day basis, right? We're busy. We don't want to look in the rearview mirror. It's really hard to even conceptualize joining, say, a leadership program or what we like to call another quote-unquote family. That ability to lean in and understand that the time that you're committing is bettering yourself and the entire industry, that's a true win-win and a true way to give back.
Those are excellent thoughts. As we wrap up this episode, we've talked a lot about the past, how we've got to where we're at today. We started talking a little bit about the future generations of agricultural leaders. What do you see as the major challenges confronting them in the future, and how will the program continue to evolve to remain relevant for another 50 years?
I go back to the founder's vision. I mean, I would think, like we've already talked about, I think we're going to see derivatives of that into the future, and our natural resources, land use, technology, new ways of farming, regulation and policy. I mean, we're going to continue to see pressure on resource management through SGMA, irrigated lands, air regulations, whatever it might be, all the things that I know you're working on day in and day out. And I think it's going to be so important that we have a robust and healthy workforce to address these things. And I think part of that is this understanding leadership. Wellness is actually becoming more and more a part of our program. That's something that 25 years ago we talked about, but now we're talking about it in an even more nuanced way. We're talking about our mental health, our physical health, our financial health, all of those things. How do we make sure that we have the resilience that we can come in and every day lead, which leadership many times is hard. I think that's something we learn in the program, right? And I know for me, hearing that and realizing that, it actually empowered me quite a bit, because I realized, right, Bryan, it's not meant to be easy. And I'm getting the tools to be able to do that more effectively. Do you have anything you want to add?
Again, you bring up the tools in the toolbox, right? I think the more tools that we have to empower ourselves and empower our respective entities will only, push the boat forward. Looking at, my ag leadership experience, one of the most founding memories was the international trip, right? You, as a fellow, have the opportunity to go with your cohort to an international location. And we don't need to talk about where we went and all that, but at the end of the day, when we would walk into, say, another community in another country, you look at it from your own lens, right? And you'd say, oh man, they need A, B, and C to be successful. But then when you'd go and you talk to the community members and the leaders, you walked away saying, wow, I actually suggest X, Y, and Z, because you didn't even know what they were dealing with. And you only used your perception and your vision to understand, rather than hearing and communicating their message effectively for you to fully understand, right? And how that applies to so many different aspects in our life is overwhelming. So yeah, ag leadership provides that opportunity.
That's fantastic. Finally, Abby, what message would you like to leave our listeners with about the importance of agricultural leadership in California?
Well, I'm going to go back to one of my class experiences. So I was class 45, and when we were in Washington, D.C. on our national seminar, we met with Colonel Randolph, who was a historian with the State Department. And I'll never forget one of the things he said to us. I think about it every day. He said, people aren't everything, but they are the most important thing. And, this program invests in the people that are going to lead agriculture through the challenges and the visionary successes that we see in this industry through the coming decades. And my question to you is what could be more important than that?
One of the best quotes that I heard through my class was, you count the number of seeds in an apple, but you can't count the number of apples that come from a seed, right? So as you conceptualize that in your life, looking at different opportunities, you never know what you're going to get, right? And there's immense opportunities if you challenge yourself and you pull yourself out of your comfort zone. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, but you learn a lot about yourself in those scenarios.
And in turn, you enhance your ability to be a true leader for the industry and for your community and for society. So we want to thank Abby for joining us, truly a phenomenal leader in her own right, doing great things with the California Agricultural Leadership Foundation. And we appreciate your effort in ensuring that the future of agriculture is bright and we have the leaders that we need to continue evolving and responding to a changing society. So thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to many great things from you in the future.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, you.
Abby.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's Voices of the Valley. Today's episode was produced by Michelle Rivera. We'd like to give a big shout out to Abby Taylor Silva and Bryan Nickerson for joining us this week. If you'd like to learn more about the work the California Agricultural Leadership Foundation is doing, we invite you to visit their website at www.agleaders.org. If you enjoyed this week's episode, please consider subscribing and leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Find and follow us on X at our handle @Western Growers. You can also find us on Instagram at Western_Growers. We'll be selecting a few lucky recipients to receive a coveted Western Growers branded Stanley mug. That wraps up this week's Voices of the Valley. I'm Cory Lunde, signing off. Thanks for tuning in to Voices of the Valley, a Western Growers production. Produced by Cory Lunde, Ann Donahue, Michelle Rivera, Kara Timmons, and Julia Nellis. As always, we'd like to give a special shout out to our guest for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe to catch our future episodes, and we invite you to follow us on social media to continue the conversation.